Hello, everyone. Welcome to the family card table. All right, we're on week number 10, and we are talking about even cards. That's kind of fun. 10's even card in school, which is like the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And the queen, I guess, if we want to think, the Jackson 11, we have to talk about that one. If that's an even or odd, we'll have to let that flow. And we're just here and want to keep going with what's flowing. And we were just talking about the awareness of what we're noticing with the way things are changing. And we believe, and as a collective, that astrology has an influence in us, in our daily lives. So we were talking about the influence. And I guess in order to talk about Uranus and Mercury, for people who have no idea what we're talking about, how would we describe those archetypes of those energies and what that might mean? Maybe we'll just talk about that one and maybe another one as far as what's happening in the sky and how it might show up in your daily experience. And we're also going to touch on the cosmic moon card, and that's kind of the way you connect to everything too, is through your moon. So those are the things we're going to chat about to start before I do our spread. So what are you guys feeling? Anybody got a response to that opening?
Kind of makes sense because isn't Uranus and Mercury are squaring, I think, today, right? And so that kind of goes with the five of diamond energy because that's the card of the day. So really having to kind of be quick, something could change suddenly. That's Uranus, and change your communications, your values. Your whole day can change. It could be busy, and you have to really just. For me, the five is like you just got to be able to go with the flow. Allow the change, don't resist it, and know that that five transforms into the six of clubs. So it's really the change may lead you more to your path and the purpose and the alignment, the balance of it all. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes,
go ahead, Croatia.
I was just doing the nod in words. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I agree with that. What you just mentioned, Gina, and Uranus. There's a lot of energy regarding individuating and freeing yourself from the conformity pressures of society, culture, friends, and family, and today, right? Today's Mercury square Uranus, and it's a few days long. It's about 5 days or so of Mercury square Uranus, and it obviously brings in the unexpected. It brings in technological challenges, like the old, like, what's my password, and locking yourself out of a car, and you know unexpected things, which I've dealt with both of those already this week. But yeah, it's a time, I think, certainly, um, the Mercury and Leo squaring Uranus and Taurus. There's something about the need to express yourself, but also um, on your own terms, and your own, free yourself from any of the conformity regarding your value system, Taurus. And there's just a lot of, with these squares, it's sort of inner tension, inner conflict. And I've definitely, in my own, the last couple of days, just definitely have been feeling that stuff come to the surface.
Yeah, and yesterday, a friend of mine called me and was like, "Oh, my daughter, she's just driving me crazy. It's the first week of school, and the principal already called me yesterday. She's homeschooled this child for a while, and here it's her first week in high school, and she didn't feel like she needed to go to the pep rally that was in the afternoon. She'd gone to all of her classes and just thought maybe it was optional, and she just left campus. So my friend was just like, "What? The first week I get a call?"
that's funny.
That's a Uranus thing.
And then you can kind of even, and I don't know that we're going to, dive into this too much, but what just happened in Georgia, may very well play with that Uranus square, the tension, the 10 of diamonds. And just to kind of give a little insight, what I found,
What happened?
the school shooting
Oh,
in Wine. Oh yeah, there was a one in Winder, Georgia, and on Wednesday.
Yep.
Wednesday, which was a Seven of Diamonds day. And what I found really interesting was, because this is how I look at it, is the Seven of Diamonds has the Jack of Hearts as its Venus card, and the Jack of Hearts can represent children. And then when you think about the Ten of Diamonds week, the Ten of Diamonds has a vertical Jack of Hearts, vertical Venus card is the Jack of Hearts. So all that energy building and, you know, the intensity of that, and then to have that kind of play out, I just found that really interesting that it was on the Seven of Diamonds day.
Interesting.
And then the Ten of Diamonds itself has the Nine of Hearts and Pluto. So you can really break it down in multiple different ways. So, but not, we can turn the corner from that one.
But the way that you're discussing the energies, interactions, and the likely things that could happen in those interactions, that's really cool stuff. That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, when you think about it too, just the week, the Ten of Diamonds, and this is why I think like everyone gets this misconception with that card that it's, you know, it's Jupiter, it's just going to rain money. It's just a blessing. But I don't think people realize it has a Nine of Hearts and Pluto. You know, that's intense. And then we think about too, there's that Ten of Diamonds brings a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? So I just think sometimes it becomes such a shiny card, and, you know, and I love, don't get me wrong, but I don't think anybody really talks a lot about that pressure that comes with that card and that energy. Jupiter is it's big, you know, and so, and you kind of saw that play out the way it spread, you know, it kind of became a mass media thing. So you see and that's the thing too, the Seven of Clubs is the reward card. So the talk, you know, keeping it in your mouth, the words. That's why the Ten of Diamonds is a celebrity card, because, you know, when people keep talking about you, you know, you keep your name in their mouth. It's, you know, it keeps you relevant, right? Then the reward card to the Ten of Diamonds is the Seven of Clubs. So,
yeah, I find the energy of that Ten of Diamond to be, particularly when it's people, that there's like some insecurity there and self-doubt.
mm-hmm.
And so it can easily, you know, internally build up and then manifest externally into some crazy ways. So yeah, it's a tough energy.
Oh yeah. That Seven of Clubs, I think, you know, that Nine of Hearts being a Pluto and the Seven of Clubs being the reward card. I think that it gives so much more texture to that energy. You know what I mean? And a lot of times the Ten of Diamonds can be considered, like, I don't like the word like using schizophrenia, but that Seven of Clubs will, like you said, like that internal, you'll convince yourself, you know what I mean, that this isn't going to work, or you'll talk yourself out of it with that Seven of Clubs if you get caught like in what I call the quicksand of the mind. It like sucks you down.
They really believe what they say. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've had intimate reactions with them, and when they are saying what they believe, like they really believe it, even if it's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
So
that is a tender space for sure. And to consider how many of us, in whatever energy we're wearing, have a certain outer self and an inner self that are trying to like come up with a negotiation for right relation, right? Because inner me and outer me are a team.
yeah.
So that's cool. You end up talking about the Ten of Diamonds. So there you are, talking about even cards in school. So what are the Ten of Diamonds like in school?
I would think that they would probably want a lot of attention.
Or they get a lot of attention. They would want it, depending on what their exterior looked like. Because some of them are shinier on the inside and some of them are shinier on the outside. Like,
yeah,
I know some ones that look so shiny on the outside, but they could not be trusted. And then I know some ones that are like a little like, you know, but inside gold. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen that a few times in my Ten of Diamonds little classroom.
Yeah. They're very ambitious.
Yeah.
I have found very like driven. They can take that 10 and put it in a 1 energy if they have a passion and really achieve a lot. One of my favorite family readings I did over the summer was a single mom and her daughter, who's a Ten of Diamond, and this summer was, you know, getting ready to go away to college. And And so I met with them both, and it was a lot of fun because this gal was just a firecracker, and she was like high school valedictorian. She was a 10 of diamond, 10 of heart.
Mm.
And she was just an amazing, does like equestrian riding and is like really, has a scholarship to UCLA for
Nice.
that. So it's pretty cool. Sorry.
Yeah, they're very talented.
Another thing that comes to mind for me with the 10 of diamonds is the importance of the family myth or the family lineage in some way. I find that really shows up with the 10 of diamonds birth cards, where there's some story or there's some thing that is energetically there with them in some way. So in other words, obviously the 10 of diamonds certainly are in my experience, ones that don't can take the spotlight and enjoy the spotlight and can really thrive in it. And oftentimes I do find situations where there's part of something in the family line that supports that in some way, and this sort of family mythos that they're a part of.
Both their karma cards are queens, so I can see that. You know what I mean? Like the family being nurtured in some way, having to learn how to nurture themselves too.
But them being little queens or focal points of the family. Like
I have found that they're born. Many of them are born into very wealthy families. The one that I was just talking about. There's a trust fund for this child already. Like, very much entitled. I think Louis XV was a 10 of diamond. And think about his life being born in Versailles and just all that power and money. Like, I think that is oftentimes why there's like some self-doubt with them, because they're given so much, they question their own, kind of like their own theory of attribution of like how they attribute their success in life. Is it because they've been given things or because they've earned things? That internal external struggle I often see in 10 of diamond children.
Interesting.
How about other 10s?
Well, I know I remember being like 10s can be looked at as like a princess card. You know what I mean? Like the attention that they can garner and they're performers. They work well with an audience. You know what I mean? So they're the ones that may get up in front of the class and have no problem doing that, speech, or, actually may enjoy it, look forward to it. This is my time to shine. Everybody, all eyes on me type stuff. I also find sometimes with the 10s, they have this, I know they genuinely want to help, but sometimes it comes in and they take over. So have you ever found that they try to come and teach your class? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like the 10 of club is the teacher card, literally. Yeah. What's interesting about that card too, though, because I've had a couple clients that I've worked with that particular card of a child, is that they tend to be late bloomers. They, like one of my closest friends, her daughter has just like changed, like in college, changed her major like 5 or 6 times and like didn't graduate on time because of that. And then launched a career and then decided that wasn't the career for her, and then totally decided to do something different. Like they really, really search for a long time before they really hit their passions. Sometimes, not all of them, but I've seen many that are like that.
I always listen to the 10 of clubs with a bigger ear because that's what Groisha is a 10 of clubs. Even though I didn't live a life of a 10 of clubs, because I often find that energy in that name does kind of bring a certain type of like question mark about it, because it's silly, but it's real at the same time. And the 10 of clubs that I know, they'll keep looking and looking till it really feels right. But the thing is, sometimes up in your head, it's not going to get like that, right? Because you can always find something else to chew on, and you got to stop judging yourself and everybody. I find the girls that I have, the 4 of them that are 10 of clubs, they're harsh on themselves and others. Like that mental is going, you know what I mean? So there's something about the connection of like your value system or your heart, or just a different way to regulate yourself, because the mind is so strong. Like that value system of the 10 of diamonds, or the ability to expand like a 10 of hearts, you know, is very strong what they're experiencing, or 10 of spades, to like work harder than anybody, you know, and get so much done and be an amazing, you know, person like that. All of that is the ability to expand. So that neurotic, am I okay? Or do they like me? Oh my God, am I being rejected? Whatever the stupidness that you decide is real, that can get expanded, right? And it can change your ability to stay focused or follow through.
Yeah, I know a lot of 10 of clubs that have insomnia.
It definitely
Because
is the card for insomnia, for sure. My friend's a 10 of clubs, and she brilliantly described her mind. She's like, it's like a million bunny rabbits jumping around in my head, and I got all these ideas, and I just got to decide which one I'm gonna bounce all away with and quiet the other ones. And that's why I always tell people who are like displacing the 10 of clubs, have it in Pluto, have it as a Mercury card. Like, you've got to move your body. You got to exhaust yourself. If not, you'll be up all night thinking of all of the things that you didn't do or need to do, or come up with all these different ideas, and then you're just mentally exhausted. So it's good for them, if you are a 10 of clubs or know it, have a 10 of clubs child, like being physically active is extremely beneficial for them.
Yeah. And I say that's true for the 10 of spade. I mean, that's my planetary ruling card. And I was telling Garisha a little while ago about how I really do need a lot of physical activity in my life to have balance, to be mentally okay. I have to have particularly activities that force me to be in the now. That's why I love mountain bike riding, because I can't be thinking about all the stuff in my head. I got to pay attention or I'll hit a tree.
Right. Right.
You know, one other thing regarding the 10s, just in general, to me is the idea of a public life. We talked about performance and things like that, but you know, to me, it really echoes, to me anyways, it doesn't always work this way with the cards and the houses. But with the 10, it really does, because there's something about public life that people seem to be drawn to, and as if they're here to really bring something to the community. And that could be, you know, of course, with the different suits, the heart, club, spades, diamonds, and things like that. But the community role and being drawn to that, for some reason, is in the sort of soul DNA, I find, with the 10s, you know. And I don't know how that plays out as children. You know, I mostly work with adults and that sort of thing. I'll look at, you know, the kids that I know, I'll look at their card, but I've never been an educator, so I don't know the younger periods of time with that. But
so would you say, Rob, would from your clients that you know that are 10s, do they have like heavy 10th house energy? Or
I'd have to look at that to really make a definitive statement about that. But I'm just thinking of a few 10s that I know, and there's just a draw to the community and to the greater mission in life, the public life. And so that's what's coming to mind. But I bet it does show up in the chart. I just haven't done that.
Maybe 11th house too. Maybe more a lot 11th house too, you know, with the community, the humanitarian energy. Maybe
it's possible. Yeah. And I went to the 10th house first just because it's just your public life. You know, public life, and 11th house is that, and, you know, allies and working towards a goal and stuff. And but public spotlight, you know, really works for the 10s.
I think that's spot on accurate, Rob. That's very insightful about even the children, because the 10s children that I know, they do kind of enjoy things that are more impactful to their school community. So like kids that were 10s liked to be part of like student council and run for student council. So that type of thing where they're in front of others and they're serving their school community. Another one that I'm thinking of was really into school spirit and loved doing a lot of the organizing of like, being a mascot for the school and organizing spirit rallies, prep rallies, things like that. So that's pretty spot on.
Yeah, all the ones I'm talking about at the center, they're the first ones to jump up and want to help and do something and come up with a reason and stuff. They're thinking ahead of you. They're usually trying to think ahead of you and say what you're going to say next, which we know I do. So, yeah. Awesome. All right, let's talk about 8.
Power cards, man.
They are strong forces.
They are. And like I always talk about 8s, particularly like an 8 of diamond, like they have pixie dust in their pocket and they can take it out and like sprinkle it into any area of their life and just watch it just bloom. That's the power of the 8. And so like the spades, have abilities to like heal, do well in sports. The clubs, 8 of clubs. I used to love my 8 of clubs because they were like good at math. They were analytical. They were systems thinkers, critical thinkers, just really.
They probably thought they were smarter than you too, huh?
Did they test authority? Did you find that they tested authority, 8 of clubs?
Oh, completely. I would never call out an 8 of club in the I would have to have that conversation in the hallway for any 8 card. I knew better. But the thing that I really, I know like the 8 of club being such a fixed card too. They can be really stubborn, but you, as a teacher, you could leverage that too. Because they have really strong principles. And so those were the kind of kids that could be good against peer pressure. They were, I like to think of them as like oak trees where like the winds would come and their roots are so deep, they stand there and they can handle the peer pressure and stay up. And so
that's a beautiful image. I really like that one.
Yeah, well, it's a tree metaphor. Of course you like it.
I live and breathe it.
Yeah.
But but I also identify the 2 oldest. One is 8 of clubs and one has a personality ruling card, 8 of clubs. And they were that in school. They did hold to principles. They did stand like that. They were not going with the wind. They weren't of that nature. And that wasn't because of me. I mean, maybe partly, but they also just were of that kind of, they stood on something.
Right. And integrity, that speaks a lot about character as well. So I liked my 8s.
Yeah. Just real quick on the 8 of clubs, and it's a bit paradoxical compared to what someone mentioned earlier. But I often, obviously the 8 of clubs, very intelligent, but I often found they underestimate their intelligence, whether it was because they were in a situation of great intellect, say in an intellectual, type of situation or something. But I often found that the 8 of clubs would be underestimating their own ability to really get things done. And I find with all the 8s, they can really channel their energy. When they're focused, it's like, boy, oh boy, that's the superpower of the 8. It's as if, this laser beam focus, when they start it moving, there they go. And just wanted to share all that.
They're very determined. When they are determined, I call them the Energizer bunnies. Like they just keep going and going and going and going and going. You're not gonna outwork an 8. Like they're gonna win. They're gonna succeed. They're gonna overcome. But it is, I think their superpower, like you're saying, is their sheer. They're persistent. Like, that's the thing. The persistence that they do not stop. Like, so I can see like it being a plus and a minus, especially if you're teaching, like having to teach them, you know what I mean? Because they're so determined. But if you, especially like the 8 of clubs, if you have to get them to kind of see it from a different point of view, there may be those challenges. And, but yeah, they're very, those 8s are, I appreciate the 8 energy, because it really, like, when you want some power, when you want to accomplish, those are the energy, that's the energy you really want to tap into.
Yeah, they're very sensitive too. They're
True.
very
And I think they're unaware of their power, though. Some of
Yeah.
them.
And sometimes their sensitivity is their power, like their ability to be tuned, and they're kind of pulled back, like not all the way in. Sometimes it feels like, and they're, yeah. Mhm.
I
Yeah,
find them to be really persuasive too.
No, yeah.
They're unaware of it, but like they can take a stand on something, and like the other students who are more like the followers will follow them automatically, and they don't understand it.
that
is
insecurity,
yeah.
and that insecurity.
I think as they get, I don't know, they maybe when they're real young, but I think they know that they
So I
can.
think there's definitely an insecurity underneath them sometimes, where they don't know that they have that confidence, right? Like they're doubting themselves, whether it's the 3s in their spread or what, but like there is an inner insecurity. It could have been like the psychological warfare of communication that was in our house. You know, they might have become more guarded because of the way we were sarcastic, but it's also seemingly an innate way that they don't really push themselves to the next thing. But ironically, they're both starting their masters together in November for business, and they're trying to get through it online, and they're doing it for the purpose of like bringing themselves to the next level of where they get to be part of decisions, because they've seen a lot of business stuff now, and they're not necessarily excited about the way things are being run, and they're more conscious of like, well, what would be fair, you know? So I do find that they're driven by some values, but I do sense an insecurity that I'd like to support an intention that they let go, because I don't think an 8 of clubs can, I know they can be maniacal, but trust me, I know that, what's his name, that monster guy was an 8 of clubs, like that did some things that were really corrupt to people's souls. So I understand the potential and the guru and the persuasiveness of the 8. I just also am identifying that there's usually an insecurity, and even that, when somebody wants to rule the world, they're usually the most insecure person walking, right? Even in the you know, comic books, like it's always some squirrely guy underneath who's acting like, I will own everything, you know, but inside he's just like, oh my god, my mom never loved me, you know. It's like
Like Dr. Evil.
Yeah.
Right? Dr.
Exactly.
Evil, you know, we're from the Austin Powers.
Mm-hmm.
they hit the note. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, but that's interesting. Yeah, that 8 things. What about the 8 of hearts?
You know, that card is, I think they, of all the 8s, have the gift of persuasiveness more so than maybe the others, just because it's like a magnet. And I think once they understand that power, they, you know, it's like with that power comes big responsibility, because you can really persuade others, you can convince them, you can get them to go along with you. I love the 8 of hearts. It feels like, I've always said, it feels like a big hug, because it can be a lot of emotional power. But again, their emotions can also be, you know, where they know how to like turn it on and get you to, you know, go along with them. And my daughter has a girl that's an 8 of hearts, and once I found out her birthday, I was like, that makes so much sense, because you can see it, you know what I mean? Like you can really see her, and sometimes you can see the sense, like I don't say bossiness, but they assert that, like they really, really, like, you're going to do this. And you know, so you can sense it. But I do find that there's also a sensitive side to them as well. Just like all the other 8s, they do have that sensitive side, but I feel like they'll put a real tough shell where you're not going to see it as much. You know, they don't want you to see that they're more sensitive.
Well, it's the popularity card. So
Yeah.
like in school, when we all have memories of like the popular kids, one of them had to have been an 8 of heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's just their MO.
then they'll gather others. They'll get them to kind of like be their reinforcement. You know what I mean? And so now there's what power in numbers. Everybody on their side. Yeah, they're very
And it's all for comfort, right?
yeah, I think, the Eight of Hearts to me, like I said, I've always felt like it is a very welcoming energy. Like it just feels like an energy you can like nuzzle up to and just like be very comforted, on the high side. The low side is, my old friend's mom was an Eight of Hearts, manipulative as I mean, her discipline methods, because they would tell stories about, when she was raising her kids and, what she would do, take Barbie doll heads off and like really psychologically mess with the kids. Like it was wild.
Like that, because I'm like, all right, it wasn't that bad. It's always helpful to you.
No, there were things like she never like physically did anything, but she psychologically messed with them for sure.
Yeah. So then we feel good on the 8. Should we go to the 6s?
They probably don't. They probably, I can find the 6s maybe frustrate some teachers because they're probably late to class. Or they don't move, they move at their own pace. So if you're trying to get them to like go on to the next assignment and they're 3 assignments behind still, or that I can see that kind of getting a little frustrated. Time management, kind of like the 9 of clubs, they just don't really, I don't know what it is with them. They just don't move fast.
The exception to that is the competitive side of
yes.
a 6, particularly the 6 of diamond.
Yeah.
So I know I brought this up in another show we did, but like Katie Ledecky, she's 6 of diamond, very typical competitive edge. So if you're a parent of a 6 of diamond, make sure they're in sports because they need to be.
And you know why? Most of their line sits in Jupiter, and they have that 10 of hearts and that 10 of diamonds. So I've noticed that. We think just the 10s want attention, but we got to look at the cards that have those cards too, right? That 6 of diamonds loves them some attention. And that's why they thrive in a spotlight or, in a stadium, like you said, playing sports and, being someone that, and they can be really good. If they dedicate themselves, they can be very, very good at what they do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I know that I have a friend who has a 6 of spade child, and that being the karma card, one of the things that we noticed about him growing up is that he always had immediate karma. So like if he was hanging out with a group and, everybody was smoking and he wasn't, and then he took, he grabbed the cigarette, he would get caught. Like if he was going to grab the cigarette to throw it away, that's when the principal would walk in and like he'd get in trouble. Like it just, lots of people speed when they drive and they don't get caught. He'd always get caught. Like it's just the good and the bad and how tough that was, because he just felt defeated in some ways. It's like he never got like a break from it. So that would be really hard for a child to have that kind of an experience. And so it'd be important, I think, to teach them about the good karma, that if you put out the good stuff, you get that back. So I don't know if you guys have experienced the karmic aspect of the 6s at all.
Yeah, I have a lot of 6 of spades, like ones that grew up with me and stuff. I have a lot, 4 or 5 of them that I know really well. And that's exactly true. And they would, I'm thinking of even the stories they told over the years, how like, and of course me, I say it and then it happens. And then I go, so I think that's completely on point. And I guess if you're here to have self-reflection and recognize how powerful you are when you build yourself, whatever you say and do is going to come back to you, and you're going to figure out like, I'm doing this, no one else is doing it. But the sixes can't think it's someone else's fault. I've had to coach a couple of Six of Diamonds women's out of these storylines where someone else was the monster and it wasn't them. And I'm like, let's calm down. There's no monster in the story. And you're making up a monster story about somebody else, which means what's going on with you? You know, but there was like a commitment to like, I did everything and they didn't, you know, because of that, you know, ability to give so much and care so much and not always get it back. But then they would go to the lack. So I have seen some sixes that go into the lack that they really have to like reclaim themselves to get a new game going.
Yeah, I've been with some adult ones that they have trouble speaking their truth, and if depending on their childhood experiences, they're conflict avoidant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like they don't feel comfortable telling people how they truly feel, because they always want to keep that balance. They always want to keep the status quo. Don't want to upset the apple cart, so to speak.
Yeah, think about it. The Six of Diamonds has a 4 as a Mercury. The Six of Hearts has a 4 as a Mercury. The Six of Clubs has the Six of Spades as a Mercury, and the Six of Spades has a Queen of Hearts. They're the most complacent people ever. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't rock the boat type energy, right? Move. Like, they don't move. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's why they very slow to move, slow to respond, slow to do anything. And I think it's just
anything wrong by doing that, right?
No, it's just their process of how they maneuver. And because they are such energies of responsibility and karma, it's like you do want to take your time, because if not, you're going to put yourself in a situation that you might not want to be in either. So I think it's kind of when you really look at their spreads like that, it does show you such a bigger way of seeing those sixes and why maybe they don't move as fast as they do. That 4, you know, as a Mercury card, it's like they compartmentalize, or they just one step at a time. It's a slow build for them.
You know, the sixes for me, there's something I find regarding meaningful work, you know, no matter what it is, and very skilled people, and the importance of finding the right outlet, the right place. That seems to be a part of the life journey with the 6. And, you know, and regarding any system, and I, you know, take, for example, astrology, oftentimes if you're like, oh, I have a sun in Aries, you know, and some people interpret that as, oh, that's descriptive of what you are, you know, like a descriptive, you know, you're an Aries sun, that means that's what you are. When there's a whole area, and I see it this way, where the sun is what you're being asked to do. You know, it's like leaning into that energy. It's a guiding light. It's a guiding star. And I see that similarly with these cards where, you know, yes, it is descriptive. It has descriptive qualities. And also the card of that birth card, and with the sixes, there's something about finding meaningful work that's a really important step in this journey here. And so that's what I wanted to say about that.
Well, it's
but
known
highly
as
skilled workers, you know, highly skilled tradespeople and business people, healers, et cetera, sixes, you know, athletes, like just highly skilled. Yeah.
Well, again, I think for them, anything they put an effort to, they can be very successful. You know, because when you look at the 6, it starts at the top, goes back down into itself. So they get back what they put out, right? So if they are complacent and lazy, they're going to get the results of that. But if they have, you know, the 6 of clubs, 6 of spades, both have the king of spades in their spread. So it is like taking the initiative and really like you are the captain of your ship type stuff. Like put forth your effort and you will be very much rewarded. You know what I mean? But I think sometimes they can get stuck again, there's a lot of that complacency. But I really do like, I agree, Rob, they can be very, very successful. But they it's like, because I think like they have like the Six of Clubs, I know has the Eight of Diamonds and Jupiter, so they can be very financially rewarded through just their efforts, you know, the sticking to something, you know, and putting forth, you know, that again, that persistence that the eight has. That's kind of how that Six of Clubs can be very well off.
And the Six of Club, I know, can be difficult to parent in middle school because, like, I call it the procrastinator card, because that is the kid that tells mom and dad, you know, 10 o'clock at night, my science fair project is due tomorrow and they need the poster board. And they, you know, they turn things in late. They, you know, like we said, they go at their own pace. And that could just, particularly if the parents are very ambitious cards, very successful energy cards, they can really struggle with the pace of their sixth child, particularly that Sixth Club. Mm-hmm. And I've worked with clients with this, and I remind them, like, think of the jobs that are out there where you want someone to have that easygoing persona that is calm in the storm. There's lots of jobs that they're just well suited for, and they'll find that. Just because they're not like go for it all the time. That even keel kind of personality, those are gifts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they probably help to balance the classroom, right? So let's go to those fours. This one's, we're doing it different than we did the odd cards, but so far it's interesting. I'm enjoying this. I feel like it's so interesting to me how much you can always learn something when you're listening, not from the part of you that thinks it knows. It's like, oh, there's so much more that I don't know. Go ahead, you know. So how about the twos? I mean the fours.
Fours. So this week in Oregon, it's back to school week, and having been a teacher educator, I'm Facebook friends with a lot of my former students. And so all week long, I've been seeing their first day of school photos that they're taking. And it's just so cute, you know. But it kind of reminds me of what's important for fours, because fours like the routines, they like the stability. And so to have those, like those first day of school pictures, that routine would be important to them. They eat that stuff up. They want the
like
stability.
The ritual of things.
Yes. And for the teachers to, you know, go over all like logistics, to go over like, this is the class schedule and here's my expectations, and you know, this is the way we're going to do things in my class. They love that. Where they struggle is if there's a lot of ambiguity. If they have a teacher who's really like way out there, that
a five,
yeah, like a 5 and 9, you know, where it's like chaos rules of the day. Pick it up as you go along. Like the fours do struggle with that type of environment. And another thing I've noticed, like about fours, particularly four clubs, is they like the stability of being able to like process their thoughts and take their own time with that. And so those are the students who like sink down in their seat when you decide to like cold call, you know, like where a teacher is going to ask questions and then they call on students that aren't raising their hands. Four clubs hate that. They're just like, don't do that to me. And they're really smart, but they just need to process everything. It's interesting.
there's something with the fours that stick out in terms of popularity and well liked. That no matter what it is, four hearts, four diamonds, clubs, spades, it's just great with groups of people, well liked, and it's as if following the trend that I've been talking about, that evolutionary trend. Like if you're a four, what's the deal? What are you leaning into? What's the journey? And obviously, the cards describe the personality but also the journey. And with fours, there's something about settling down or creating the foundation, creating the roots, creating the stability, and it's interesting because a lot of fours are like super travelers in terms of wanderers. The fours and the fives have this unique relationship where karma cards and all these, what's called the karma cards or whatever. And so there is, I don't know, there's something about creating belonging, creating family. And I don't mean necessarily biological, but just, a home is not a house. A house is architecture. A home is something more than that. And I feel like with the fours, there's something about creating that foundation and that in life.
Well, and they feel good. You know what I mean? I think that's the thing too, what you're talking about. Like there's a element of like, oh, you're solid. You know what I mean? Like you're not a wishy-washy. You're not a chameleon. I kind of know what I'm getting, and if they let you into their little four walls, you're kind of good. You're good with them, right? You're kind of protected by that. I think too. I can see them protecting others. If they felt like someone was being picked on or, not like they would want to step up and like kind of maybe put a shield around them in some way, I feel like people would feel safe in their presence, or content in their presence as well. You kind of know what you're going to get because they don't really switch it up on you a lot. You're going to get the same energy for the most part. I mean, obviously transits and stuff like that, but they're still gonna, consistency. Where like the fives and the other, not, there may be a lot of inconsistency with that energy. So I think that's a thing that people may appreciate more with the fours, their consistency.
Plus, when you talk about the foundation, I think of like the foundation of like a building, where it can take a lot of load, a lot of weight, and there's even distribution of the weight in the foundation to keep everything on top staying, in place. And physically, I see that with a lot of the fours, but particularly the four of spade, that they physically are very evenly distributed muscularly, which is why a lot of those four of spades do well in sports. Mm-hmm. Particularly like football, wrestling, things like that. Like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, he's a four of spade. And he's bulky on top, but bulky on the bottom, like just even distribution. It's a really interesting thing. Even the women clients that I have who are four of spades are physically strong. I have two that are massage therapists. Yeah. And their bodies are like that. They're just really dense people.
I know a four of spades. She very vegan. Her whole platform is health. Her whole platform is her body. Her whole platform is, making yourself stronger. And she's a four of spades. So, and I wouldn't, that energy comes around. You may, it is, and what it is the consistency. They didn't wake up like, they built their body like that. They train day in, day out. They dedicate. And that's the thing with the four of spades. It's the commitment. They're committed to that strength, that power. And she was really very, very strong and strong-minded too. Very strong-minded.
Yeah. It's so hard not to think of all the fours, but I'm more just listening to hearing what you guys know about them. But I for sure related to them all. one of the things that I've seen a bunch of four of diamonds do is, even though they're in their own circles, it's like circles touching circles, and in prayer communities, and they're some of the foundation makers, those four of diamonds, kind of like setting things up. There's an ego piece in the development, but that's true of any place you take power, right? There's always going to be an ego there when the power comes.
They have the king of spades as Pluto.
Mm.
I think that's a big part of the.
So, you know, and I was told when somebody did my numerology one time, actually two different people told me, so that makes it even more annoying, that I would always have troubles with fours and eights. I still haven't figured out what the trouble is, because I like a lot, some of them a whole bunch, and then other ones I just would rather not. Just no offense, I never think that thought about you. I just don't want to hang out with you. Do you know what I mean? And the ones that I feel sweet with, the four of clubs, I guess that being my Venus card, there's a few of those that I have like love affairs with. You know, I have some really sweet four of clubs, but not necessarily four of clubs men. I seem to like four of clubs women, but might be the lesbian inside me. So, but I also find the four of diamonds people to be just strong, like you're talking about, just like so about what they're going to do, like just so committed and creative and passionate and playful and really sweet. Do you know what I mean? The four of hearts, the ones I've known, they seem to like really be about the family, but sometimes they're more to themselves than with the community. Whereas the four of spades, I see more in the community, right? I've noticed that, you know. And the four of spades, I have some real sweet ones in my life, and it's been such a mutual respect. There hasn't ever been a fight for light. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes with the eights, I would sometimes feel like a dance for the stage. You know what I mean? I never really felt like that with any fours. You know, and it's more just like I have to do it the way I do it while you're doing what you do, and it looks like I'm not doing what you're doing, but I am. It's different the way I am. Right? Like I can't do it because sometimes for me, a couple of those four diamonds, this is how it's got to be. I'm da. You have to this, and I'm just like, yeah, we're not going to do that. That's okay, but it just means you play where you play and you accept the respect that's there, right? So I think of the fours like that.
They're your Venus and your Neptune, right? The four of clubs and the four of spades. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess my challenge is, I don't know, maybe me belonging. Maybe I'm more like that four of hearts hiding out somewhere. We'll see. But how about the twos? What do you guys think about the twos?
They're gonna want to work with people. Like I think they need that. Like, can I work with this person? Can I do a project with them? You know what I mean? Like if you give them a project by themselves, they're gonna be like, oh my God. I can easily see them wanting to tag team. Like I do better in groups. I do better with a partner. And I go to the bathroom. Can I take this person with me? Like that would be how I would see the two.
So true. But then what I have found too for young children that are twos is they're the ones that can struggle with separation anxiety when they first go to school. Particularly the two of hearts and the two of clubs. If they're really close to like a mom when they go off to school, like they really struggle. So, and particularly that two of club has like certain kind of fears and phobias. I have a friend who's a two of club, and you know when COVID came out, we all had to get vaccinations. She's like putting it off. She's like, I hate needles. Did you see that needle? How long that needle? Like, they have really interesting like fears that are, you know, I mean, are real for them though. But yeah, you're right, Gina. This is definitely a card like educationally that partner well, work well with others, are good with collaborative type learning. They also love communication. So using like different kinds of formats of communication. So like watching videos, you know, doing PowerPoints, listening to podcasts. Like they love to be able to communicate and present information in the classroom in different ways. So that's kind of an interesting thing about them. They're good with tutoring. So if you have a two club or any two card that is struggling in school, they respond really well to tutoring, one-on-one tutoring.
Nice. Well, there you go. That was a much different approach to the even cards. I guess we just felt more balanced or something while we were doing it. But either way, we got it through it, and it was great. And so I think we should go to the card pull. Does everybody feel ready to transition to that?
Sure.
Yeah.
And we can do it the same way as we took out all the even cards, and you'll explain. It's all you, Donna.
I did that. Okay, so this is the weekly family card pull. So we are creating a hypothetical family here to talk about using 2 deck of cards. So this first deck has all the cards in it, and I'm going to pull 2 cards, one representing the mother and the second card representing the father. So let's see what we get. Oh, interesting. So for the mom, a king of diamond, Roisha. The dad, a king of club. And then I'm going to take my second deck, and I pulled out just all of the even cards. So this card that I pulled will represent the child. And I have a 2 of club. We were just talking about 2 of clubs. Okay. Wow.
That's like a good,
What were you going to say?
it just feels like a puzzle when we do these cards. It's like, wow, what would those paths intertwine as? You know, how would they narrate their story together?
Right. So one thing that I see here too with, you know, having 2 parents that are kings, like kings can be bossy. And a low expression of that 2 of club card is that while it is the conversationalist card, it's also the card that can argue really well.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of deep conversations and arguments in that house. Like things would go, there'd be a lot of deep dives in that house for sure. Yeah.
Big time.
Big
Yeah.
time. There's also a way that the 2 kings would have to have a certain type of agreement too, right? Because their combination card, I believe, is the King of Hearts. I believe would it be the King of Hearts?
Mm-hmm.
So there really have to be the family values at the top there, right? Because the 2 is going to instigate. Like I find the 2s instigate. I mean, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm a 2 of diamonds, you know, and other parts of me, and my birthday's a 2, so we instigate. I'm not saying it's you, it's me too. So the 2 instigate. So there's going to be a dynamic of how do we negotiate the instigation and the desire to that kind of interaction. Because it's not like a fault in anyone, right? It's just like, okay, now we know this is the way it goes. So how do we kind of like make a terrain for that?
It seems to me the family dynamics, just looking at the sort of combined cards and things, is pretty good. You know, the 2 of clubs combined with any king is going to be a really good friend, you know. So there's, you know, I think the combined cards with the child, with each parent, is a 2 of hearts and the 2 of spades, depending on which is which. And either of those, it's really good friendship and really good connection. And I think in a dynamic such as this one, maybe the child will feel difficultly in the middle of these 2 kings, you know, and how do you navigate? You're friends with both, you love both, all that, and when there's 2 kings in the household, you know, archetypally speaking, metaphorically speaking, and maybe the child feels a bit in the middle because they're best friends with both, and but even between the parents, King of Hearts, like you said, Groisha, I mean, that's a pretty loving, self-sacrificing relationship. So in general, I feel like this is a really good combination of a family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be a really dynamic, intellectually stimulating environment for this child. I think that being kings, they would really value independence and self-reliance, and so they would pass on those traits to the two of club. And so, yeah, I see this as being actually a really, really lovely combination.
Good positioning for alchemy, right? Good positioning for the generations to be able to affect one another in a way that we get smarter together and not fight over the way it should be.
Yeah, and I think that the lower expressions of the two of club, like the phobias and the fears that I talked about earlier, I think that these two king parents would be really proactive. They would know what to do, and they would take care of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a great place to consider the moon thing, because there's a lot of King of Diamonds out there, and you're all going to be different moms. I'll say from this, girl, I have an Aries moon, so I could, let them know what was going on with the tone of voice. I could read what was going on. Like, all right, what happened? You're doing this because you did that. Okay, let's go. You can move with that. Let's go. Come on, enough. And I wasn't like not paying attention, but I was pushing them almost. Like there was a push in my parenting, right? So I can see how when two kings come together, there would be a value to pushing all the time because there's such a natural push. Like to more allow things, because that push can be draining. And I see the kids definitely get in the middle. I experienced that one. I definitely love me and Miles, who's another King of Diamonds, with everything. They treat us both like we're the best people they could ever have for parents. But when we're together, it's always this weirder thing because we have different types of relationships. We're different types of people. Like we connect differently. We conversate. So with the twins, they're good at both of us, but together they're kind of like, all right, guys. Oh, let me see, Felix. It's okay. It's okay.
Oh, I love it.
That I haven't done yet.
Well, this looks awesome. I'm so glad you're playing it. I'm almost
It's a box that there's exploding stuff out of it.
like my heart.
What is that?
It looks great. I like the colors you picked.
So this is the exploding
Does
stuff.
it light?
And
Oh, it's hard to see out here. I have to look inside. I see it light a little bit.
and this is the box.
Okay,
This
sorry
is the
guys, keep going.
That's a light bright, is it not? That's
That's
pretty old
yeah.
school. Like
Wow. Yeah.
that's I remember that as a kid.
Mhm.
Me too.
Yep.
So I'm that grandma who like saved this from when they were little, and when I first got here, he did it, and he just remembered today and said, "Do you still have that light bright?" And I was like, "Yeah, the punches are done. We have to make new one, whatever." So
And then there's one.
then there was one more left, and he got to do it. So he wanted to show it. It looks
Oh.
awesome.
Thank you. That's fun.
All right, we'll see you later. I'm almost done. Thank you.
It brings back good memories.
Mhm.
So-
Here.
Oh, thank you. All right, cool. So it's my surprise. I'm a box that's going to explode. Uranus and Mercury. Woohoo!
Mhm.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. So what do you think, Jen? Anything about that family that you want to bring up about the two kings and the two of clubs?
It was the King of Diamonds, King of Clubs, Two of Clubs, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I can definitely see where the two energy could, ignite those kings. There could be very good dialogue if they can allow the child that moment, like, to communicate, to express themselves, because the Two of Clubs has the King of Clubs as Mercury, and then we know the King of Diamonds has the two in Mars. So very much using the power of your words and being able to express yourself. And
Yeah.
I think for the Two of Clubs, they would need to, feel that they're, what they say matters, because sometimes the King of Clubs specifically
Yeah.
may struggle with allowing the other, the opinions of others.
Well, kings have a little thing of arrogance they have to grow through.
Yeah.
When
And the
you're
Two of Clubs can help them, being
Yes,
able to kind of see it from different ways and different points of views too. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, everybody, I think we touched on everything that we wanted to today. Anyone else have something to say about the cards or anything else? No,
Are you doing a room tonight? I saw a room scheduled on Clubhouse for the. Did you do that, Groisha? Huh?
I didn't, but I did.
I think and what I found was like 10 o'clock. Wow, that's so late. Yeah, it says the card table for self-mastery, what's growing in our lives tonight at 10 p.m.
Well, so that's 8 o'clock my time. Things will probably be over here. I might actually have a lot to say because I'm definitely so like activated with this Uranus Mercury thing. Like I'm feeling it more than I ever felt a retrograde. I'm feeling it in a very different way.
Me too. And I just also want to mention the Sun is opposite Saturn. The Sun is Virgo, Saturn's in Pisces. So there's this like serenity prayer mantra, what can you control, what can't you control, how do you know the difference, and all, that whole sort of thing, to do or to be, and to do be, all that stuff, finding the balance of it,
It's so true, Rob.
Those are definitely in play. So it's a really potent time right now. It really is. It's just like whoa. So I feel it too, Groisha, in a big way. Why I'm wearing my hat. I'm hiding my bad haircut.
Yeah, it's like it's a louder experience of the in and out talking to each other. That's the way the words I would give it. Like there's always been a little dialogue and a me kind of mediating the in and out me, but now it's like they're talking for themselves much louder, and my little narrative is like, okay, let's get to the truth. You prayed for the truth. Let's get to the truth. And I'm like, okay, what's the truth, right? Because you think you know all your truths, but you don't really know all your truths until you're in or out or lined up and saying, you ready? Like, this is what happens now. And I've always had the gift and curse of when I know. And like you've said, there's been times I had to leave things and I didn't think I was going to leave, but I was like, I got to go. I'm supposed to be somewhere else. And I think it's like those were training ground for now. You know what I mean? Because it would just make sense if there's a right relation or a pure spread or a kaleidoscope that's the brightest one for us to light ourselves. Everyone's going to get into position. And sometimes we don't fully know what that position is. Until you stand there and you're like, yep, never felt anything like that before. So we appreciate having the teens here today and the adults. It was nice to have a young man speak from the adolescents. Rob, I'm playing.
Fair.
It was play. So, all right. So then, next week we'll do it again. Donna, do you remember the topic for next week?
The topic for next week is classroom composite energies.
Yeah, so how they all come together like we've been doing with the card pulls. So the main mission here is to become more self-aware and let the inner and outer self come together, sweeter and better. And keep everything on the table, nothing under the table, right? The only way we're going to grow different is when we're not sneaking and hiding anything. Bring everything up and surrender prayer, right? Accept what you can and let go what you got to let go. And change what we need to change. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.